I stared at my phone screen, reading the message for the third time. The words had not changed. My mother had written in the family group chat, "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot." Below her message sat a string of laughing emojis from my brother Kyle and my sister Amanda. I was sitting alone in my tiny apartment on a Tuesday evening, 3 days before Thanksgiving, holding a phone that suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. For 6 years I had been quietly paying my mother's mortgage, her utilities, her property taxes, everything that kept her in the house where I grew up. Nobody in my family knew this. Nobody had ever asked. I set the phone down on my kitchen table and opened my laptop. My hands were steady as I logged into my bank account. Within 15 minutes, every single automatic payment was canceled. The mortgage, the electric bill, the gas, the water, the property taxes, the homeowner's insurance, all of it, gone. I closed the laptop and sat in the silence of my apartment, listening to my own breathing. 6 years earlier, my father Ronald collapsed in the driveway while taking out the trash. The heart attack killed him before the ambulance arrived. He was 58 years old. I was 26, working as an entry-level accountant and making $38,000 a year. My mother Barbara was 55 and had never worked outside the home. The house still had a mortgage of $160,000. Property taxes ran $4,000 annually. Utilities averaged $300 a month. My older brother Kyle was 29 at the time, working in sales and driving a brand new sports car. My sister Amanda was 30, married to a man named Derek, living in a beautiful suburban house with a manicured lawn. At the funeral, everyone cried and hugged and promised to take care of each other. Then everyone went home. 2 weeks later, I sat with my mother at her kitchen table while she stared at a stack of bills. She had no income except Social Security, which would not start for another few years. She looked at me with empty eyes and said she did not know what she was going to do. I asked Kyle and Amanda if they could help. Kyle said he was saving for a down payment on a house. Amanda said she and Derek were trying for a baby and needed to be financially stable. Neither of them offered a single dollar. So I did what I thought my father would want. I called the mortgage company and set up automatic payments from my checking account. I did the same with the utility companies. I told my mother the life insurance was covering everything, that she should not worry. She believed me without question. I worked 60-hour weeks. I took a second job on weekends doing bookkeeping for small businesses. I moved into a studio apartment in the cheapest part of town. I drove a 15-year-old sedan that burned oil and made strange noises. I bought my clothes at thrift stores. I never took vacations. I never went out to eat. I never dated because I could not afford to. Every spare dollar went to keeping my mother in her house. My siblings lived their comfortable lives. Kyle bought a new truck. Amanda posted vacation photos on social media every few months. They came to family dinners at my mother's house, ate her food, complained about their jobs, and never once asked how the bills were being paid. My mother never thanked me because she had no idea what I was doing. She thought everything was handled. The years passed. I watched my friends get married, buy houses, start families. I stayed in my studio apartment and worked 2 jobs and told myself it was worth it. My mother loved Kyle the most. He had always been the golden child, athletic and charming and popular. Amanda was the princess, sweet and pretty and beloved. I was the serious one, the boring one, the one who got good grades but was no fun at parties. At family gatherings, there were always little comments. Kyle would joke about my old car. Amanda would ask when I was going to get a real apartment. My mother would sigh and say she wished I would lighten up and enjoy life more. I smiled and said nothing, and went home to my empty apartment and paid their bills. 3 weeks ago, Kyle called me. He had a business opportunity, he said. A sure thing. He just needed $5,000 to get started. I told him I did not have $5,000. He got angry. He said I was selfish. He said I made decent money and lived like a college student. So where was all my money going? I did not tell him. I just said no. He hung up on me. 2 days before Thanksgiving, I sent a message to the family group chat asking if I could bring a dessert. My mother responded immediately. "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot." Kyle sent laughing emojis. Amanda wrote, "About time. He brings down the whole vibe anyway." I sat staring at my phone for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and started canceling payments. The mortgage payment was due on the 1st of each month with a grace period until the 15th. I canceled it on November 22nd. I canceled everything else too. Then I spent Thanksgiving alone in my apartment, eating Chinese takeout and watching football on a television I had bought at a yard sale for $20. On November 28th, my mother received a notice from the bank. The mortgage payment had not been received. She called the bank, confused. They told her the automatic payment had been canceled. She left me a voicemail. Her tone was not concerned. She sounded annoyed. "Jackson, the bank says the payment was canceled. I do not know what is going on. Call me back." I did not call back. She tried again the next day. Then she called Kyle and Amanda. I know this because Kyle sent me a text message. "What did you do?" I did not respond. 3 days later, my mother called from a different number. I did not recognize it, so I answered. "Jackson, what is happening?" "The mortgage was not paid. Kyle and Amanda are upset. You need to fix this." I hung up without saying a word. Then I blocked her number. I blocked Kyle's number. I blocked Amanda's number. I blocked them all on social media. The first week of December, my mother tried calling from my uncle's phone. I recognized the area code and let it go to voicemail. "Jackson, this is your mother. I do not understand what is happening. Please call me back. We can talk about Thanksgiving. Maybe I was too harsh. Call me." I deleted the voicemail. Kyle posted on social media, "My brother is having some kind of breakdown. Please be patient with our family during this difficult time." I saw it before I blocked him completely. Amanda shared the post and added, "Praying for healing and reconciliation." I closed my laptop and went to work. For the first time in 6 years, I had money left over after paying my own bills. I bought new clothes. I went to a real grocery store instead of the dollar store. I traded in my dying car for a used sedan that actually ran properly. I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood. I felt guilty. I felt liberated. I felt like I was finally breathing after being underwater for 6 years. My phone kept ringing from unknown numbers. I stopped answering. December arrived cold and gray. I went to work, came home, lived my quiet life. My family was somewhere out there, dealing with consequences I had created. I tried not to think about it. On December 15th, my mother received a second notice from the bank. The payment was now officially late. A $75 fee was added. The letter warned that if payment was not received by December 31st, foreclosure proceedings would begin. The property tax bill arrived the same week. $4,200 due by January 15th. The electric company sent a disconnect notice. The bill had not been paid for 2 months. $600 owed. The gas company sent the same. $400. The water, the internet, the trash collection, all sent warnings. My mother sat at her kitchen table surrounded by red enveloped bills and cried. She had $1,200 in her checking account. Her Social Security was $1,800 a month. After she paid for food, her medications for blood pressure and cholesterol, her car insurance and gas, she had maybe $200 left each month. She could not pay even one mortgage payment. She called Kyle. He came over, looked at the bills, and got angry. "Where is all Dad's insurance money?" he demanded. "There is no insurance money," my mother said quietly. "Then how have you been paying for 6 years?" Kyle asked. My mother had no answer. She had never asked. She had just assumed. Kyle tried calling me. My number went straight to a message saying the voicemail was full. He drove to my old apartment. The landlord told him I had moved out. No forwarding address. Kyle called Amanda. They met at a coffee shop and tried to figure out what to do. Their mother needed $7,500 immediately. Neither of them had it. Kyle had just bought a new truck on a 7-year loan. His credit cards were maxed out. Amanda and Derek were saving for a trip to Europe they had already booked. $5,000 in flights and hotels, non-refundable. They could not spare the money. Maybe Mom can get a loan, Amanda suggested. She's 70, Kyle said, on Social Security. No bank will give her a loan. Maybe she can get a job, Amanda said. Doing what? Kyle snapped. She has no work experience. She's not qualified for anything that pays more than minimum wage. They sat in silence. Then Kyle said, Jackson did this. Jackson somehow caused this. We need to find him and make him fix it. Amanda agreed. They decided I was playing some kind of manipulation game. They believed I would come crawling back within days. Days passed. I did not come back. My mother tried sending emails. They bounced back. She tried messaging on social media. I had unfollowed everyone. She drove to my old apartment building twice more, hoping to catch me. I was never there. She asked neighbors if they knew where I went. Nobody knew. On December 20th, Kyle posted on social media, My brother has abandoned our elderly mother in her time of need. If anyone knows how to reach Jackson, please tell him his family needs him. The post got 47 shares. People commented expressing sympathy and shock. What kind of son does that? Someone wrote. I saw the post before I made all my accounts private. I felt a twist in my stomach, but I did not respond. On December 28th, my mother received a certified letter from the bank. It was thick, official, terrifying. She signed for it with shaking hands. The letter stated that foreclosure proceedings would begin on January 5th unless full payment of $3,100 was received. That included 2 months of missed payments, plus late fees and legal fees. My mother called Kyle and Amanda, sobbing. They came over immediately. The three of them sat in the living room where I had grown up, where we had celebrated every Christmas and birthday, and stared at the letter. We have to find Jackson, Kyle said. His jaw was clenched. He did this. He has to fix it. How? Amanda asked. We do not even know where he lives. Kyle pulled out his phone. I'm hiring a private investigator. It cost them $400 they did not have. Kyle put it on a credit card. The investigator found my new address in 2 days. My name was on the lease. It was public record. On January 2nd, I came home from work at 6:30 in the evening. Kyle and Amanda were waiting in the parking lot of my apartment complex. I saw them as I pulled in. My stomach dropped. I considered driving away, but I was tired of running. I parked and got out of my car. They rushed over. Kyle got to me first. You selfish bastard, he shouted. You're killing Mom. Do you understand that? You're killing her. Amanda was crying. How can you do this, Jackson? How can you do this to your own family? I tried to walk past them toward my apartment. Kyle blocked my path. Neighbors were coming out onto their balconies, watching. I kept my voice calm. Please move. We're not moving until you fix this, Kyle said. He was bigger than me, angrier than me. I could smell alcohol on his breath. I looked at Amanda. She looked away. Finally, I spoke. I paid everything for 6 years. Every mortgage payment, every utility bill, every property tax. While you both lived your comfortable lives, they stared at me. Kyle's face went from anger to confusion to disbelief. You're lying, he said. I pulled out my phone. I had screenshots prepared. 6 years of bank statements, payments to the mortgage company, payments to the utility companies, $153,000 over 6 years. I held the phone out. Kyle grabbed it, scrolled through the images. His face went pale. Amanda looked over his shoulder. She gasped. "This is," she started, then stopped. "This can't be real." "It's real," I said. "I've been paying for everything since Dad died. You never knew because Mom never knew. I told her the life insurance was covering it. I lied so she wouldn't worry, and so you two wouldn't feel obligated." Kyle's face changed again. The disbelief became something uglier. "Then you should have kept paying," he shouted. "You started it. You can't just quit." People on the balconies were recording on their phones now. Amanda grabbed my arm. "We didn't ask you to do that," she said. "That was your choice. You can't hold it over us." I pulled my arm away. "And being banned from Thanksgiving was your choice. Now live with yours." Kyle lunged forward. He tried to grab my phone. I jerked it back. A neighbor, an older man in a veteran's cap, shouted down, "I'm calling the police if you don't leave." Kyle looked up, looked around at all the witnesses, then turned back to me. "This isn't over," he said. "You're going to regret this." They left. I went inside my apartment and sat in the dark. Despite everything, despite the anger and the hurt and the justification, I felt terrible. My mother was going to lose her house, the house where my father had lived, the house where I had grown up. I told myself she had made her choice. She had called me an idiot. She had banned me. She had never once, in 6 years, asked how the bills were being paid. But knowing all that did not make the guilt go away. On January 5th, foreclosure proceedings officially began. My mother received the paperwork. She had 90 days before the house would be sold at auction. The house was worth about $320,000 in the current market. After the mortgage was paid off, she would walk away with maybe $160,000. But she would be homeless. Kyle and Amanda panicked. They had grown up in that house. More importantly, they had assumed they would inherit it someday. That inheritance was evaporating. They scraped together money. Kyle borrowed from friends. Amanda took a cash advance on her credit cards. Together, they managed $1,400. They paid the mortgage for January. It bought 30 days. But they still needed the property taxes and the utility bills, and they could not sustain monthly payments. They made $7,000 combined each month. After their own mortgages and expenses, they had maybe $1,000 of discretionary income together. Not enough. On January 10th, I came home from work to find a certified letter taped to my door. I opened it standing in the hallway. It was from a law firm. Kyle and Amanda had hired an attorney. The letter stated that I had a legal and moral obligation to continue supporting my mother. It claimed I had engaged in financial elder abuse and intentional infliction of emotional distress. It demanded I immediately resume all payments and compensate the family for damages, including their attorney fees. The total demand was $15,000. I stood there reading it twice, 3 times. I could not believe it. After everything, they were threatening to sue me. The next morning, I called an attorney. The consultation cost $300. I brought all my documentation. The attorney, a woman in her 60s named Mrs. Patterson, reviewed everything. Then she laughed. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't laugh. But this lawsuit is absurd. You had no legal obligation to pay anything. Your mother's debts were her responsibility, not yours. You were incredibly generous, but generosity doesn't create legal obligation." "Can they actually sue me?" I asked. "Anyone can sue anyone," she said, "but they'll lose. However, even a frivolous lawsuit costs money to defend. You're looking at $5,000 to $10,000 in legal fees." I felt sick. "So even though I'll win, it'll cost me thousands of dollars." "Yes," she said, "that's probably their strategy. Bankrupt you into submission." She drafted a cease and desist letter. It included all my documentation, It proved I had no legal obligation. It warned that I would countersue for harassment if they proceeded. The letter cost me $800. I sent it certified mail. Kyle and Amanda received it 3 days later. They did not stop. On January 15th, Kyle created a Facebook post. It was long, emotional, carefully written. He titled it, "My brother abandoned our dying mother." In the post, he claimed our father had left life insurance money. He claimed I had somehow gained control of it. He claimed I had promised to take care of our mother forever. He claimed I withdrew support suddenly and cruelly because of a minor family disagreement. He implied I was mentally unstable. He asked for prayers. The post went viral in our local community. It was shared over 2,000 times. People I had never met were commenting about what a terrible person I was. Someone found a photo of me from my old social media and shared it with the post. Strangers were sending me messages. Most were hateful. Some were death threats. My hands shook as I read them. The next day, Amanda created a crowdfunding page. She called it, "Save My Mother's Home." She told the same false story Kyle had told. She said our father's insurance money was being withheld by me out of spite. She posted old photos of our mother looking sad and frail. She made our mother look like a helpless victim. The page raised $4,000 in the first week. People who had never met our family were donating $20, $50, $100. They were leaving comments calling me evil. Someone found out where I worked. They called my office. They sent emails to my boss demanding I be fired for elder abuse. My supervisor, Mr. Thompson, called me into his office on January 21st. He was in his 50s, a calm man who had always been fair to me. "Jackson," he said, "we need to talk about this situation with your family." I brought all my documentation. I had learned to carry it everywhere. I showed him everything: the bank statements, the payments, the text message banning me from Thanksgiving, the false crowdfunding page. Mr. Thompson spent an hour reviewing it all. Then he sat back in his chair. "This is insane," he said. "I believe you completely. You've been incredibly generous and you're being slandered." "Thank you," I said. "However," he continued, "this is creating disruption here. We're getting calls and emails. Some of our clients have seen the social media posts. I'm not going to fire you. You've done nothing wrong. But I need this situation to be resolved soon." I understood what he was really saying. "Resolve it, or we'll have to let you go." I left his office feeling trapped. My mother had not said anything publicly. She had not posted on social media. She had not corrected Kyle and Amanda's lies. But she had not defended me either. When extended family members called her to ask what was happening, she said, "I don't know what happened. Jackson just abandoned us." She never mentioned the 6 years of support. She never mentioned banning me from Thanksgiving. This betrayal hurt worse than anything Kyle or Amanda had done. My cousin Sarah called me from an unlisted number. I answered by accident. "Jackson," she said, "I just want you to know I don't believe what Kyle and Amanda are saying." I asked around. Something didn't add up. "I'm so sorry this is happening." "Thank you," I managed to say. "Does Aunt Barbara know you were paying everything?" Sarah asked. "She knows now," I said, "but she's not correcting the lies." There was silence on the line. "I'm sorry," Sarah said again. "I have to go," I told her. I hung up. The crowdfunding money covered 1 month of mortgage and some utilities. But Kyle and Amanda needed ongoing payments. They needed $2,100 every month indefinitely. Plus, the property taxes were still due. $4,200 by January 31st. The crowdfunding donations were slowing down. The page had raised $6,800 total. They used some to pay the February mortgage. They saved the rest for emergencies. But it was not enough. On January 25th, Kyle showed up at my office. He walked past the reception desk and demanded to see management. The receptionist called security. Kyle refused to leave. He started shouting in the lobby. My brother Jackson works here. He's a thief. He stole from our family. You're employing a criminal. Mr. Thompson came out of his office. Security arrived. Kyle was holding printed copies of the social media posts and the crowdfunding page. He shoved them at Mr. Thompson. This is who you employ, Kyle said. Someone who abandons his elderly mother. Fire him, or I'm going to the news. Security escorted Kyle out. He was banned from the property, but the damage was done. Mr. Thompson called me into his office again. His expression was no longer sympathetic. Jackson, he said, I believe you, but this has gone too far. I need you to take a leave of absence until this is resolved. I felt my world crumbling. That's not fair, I said. I've done nothing wrong. I know, he said, but I have a business to run. This is disruption we can't afford. Take 2 weeks. Get this handled. Then come back. I wanted to argue, but I saw it in his face. It was this or termination. I took the leave. That evening, a local news reporter called my cell phone. My name is Carol Stevens. I'm with Channel 7 News. I'd like to talk to you about the situation with your family. I hung up without responding. She called back. Mr. Jackson, I understand you're upset, but your brother Kyle has reached out to us with a story. We're running it in 2 days. I'd like to get your side. I felt panic rising in my chest. What story? A story about a son who abandoned his elderly mother. We have the crowdfunding page. We have his statement. I'd like to give you a chance to respond. If she ran that story, my life was over. My career was over. Everything was over. I need to meet with you, I said. I have documentation. I need you to see it before you run anything. We met the next morning at a coffee shop. Carol Stevens was in her 50s, professional, skeptical. I brought everything. Bank statements for 6 years. Every payment. Every cancellation. The text message banning me from Thanksgiving. Emails where I had asked Kyle and Amanda for help years ago and been refused. The attorney letter from Kyle and Amanda. The cease and desist I had sent. Carol spent 2 hours going through every document. Her expression changed from skepticism to shock to anger. This is not the story your brother told me, she said. I know. This is fraud. The crowdfunding page is based entirely on lies. I know. She looked up at me. This is a much better story. I felt a flicker of hope. What do you mean? She leaned forward. Your brother and sister lied to me. They lied to thousands of people. They raised money under false pretenses. That's a crime. And you have proof of everything. I don't want revenge, I said. I just want the truth out there. The truth is revenge, she said. I'm going to expose them. Are you willing to go on camera? I hesitated. That's still my family. They're destroying your reputation, your career, your life, she said. The truth needs to come out. I thought about Mr. Thompson's face. I thought about the death threats. I thought about my mother sitting in that house, letting everyone believe I was a monster. Yes, I said. I'll go on camera. Carol contacted the crowdfunding platform that afternoon. She reported the page as fraudulent. She provided all my documentation. The platform froze the account pending investigation. Kyle and Amanda could not access the remaining $2,300. Amanda called me from an unknown number that evening. I answered without thinking. What did you do? She screamed. The crowdfunding account is frozen. We can't get the money. That money was raised with lies about me, I said. You committed fraud. You're going to let Mom lose her house over your ego, she shouted. I supported Mom for 6 years, I said quietly. I sacrificed everything. I was called an idiot and banned from family. You raised money by calling me a thief, and you're asking about my ego. Please, Jackson, she said. Her voice broke. We're desperate. The property tax is due in 3 days. We'll lose everything. You made your choice at Thanksgiving, I said. Now live with it. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I felt sick, but I did not call back. Carol Stevens spent the next 2 days working on the story. She interviewed my mother. She interviewed Kyle and Amanda. They thought she was doing their version of the story. They did not realize she had all my documentation. Carol asked my mother on camera, "Why did you ban your son from Thanksgiving?" My mother looked uncomfortable. I don't remember exactly. It was a disagreement. Over what? Carol pressed. I think, my mother said slowly, Jackson wouldn't loan Kyle some money, and you banned him from Thanksgiving for that. My mother had no good answer. Carol interviewed Kyle. He was confident, angry, righteous. Jackson controls our father's insurance money, he said on camera. He's withholding it out of spite. Can you provide documentation of this insurance money? Carol asked. Kyle hesitated. It's complicated. The policy was in Jackson's name somehow. But there's no public record of such a policy, Carol said. I checked. Kyle got defensive. I don't have to prove anything to you. You contacted me, remember? Carol interviewed Amanda. She cried on camera. My brother is so cruel, Amanda said. He just cut us off without explanation. Did you or your brother Kyle ever contribute financially to your mother's household after your father died? Carol asked. We supported her emotionally, Amanda said, but financially. We both have our own families to support, Amanda said. Did you know your brother Jackson was paying your mother's mortgage and bills? Amanda's face went blank. What? Your brother has documentation showing he paid over $150,000 over 6 years, Carol said. Amanda stared at the camera. That's not, she started. She stopped. Carol showed her the bank statements. Amanda started crying harder. But these weren't real tears of sadness. They were tears of someone caught. The interviews were damaging enough, but then Carol revealed to them on camera that she had all my documentation. Kyle became belligerent. He stood up, ripped off his microphone, and stormed out. Amanda just sat there in shock. Carol interviewed me last. I was nervous, but I told the truth. I explained everything calmly. I showed the text message. I explained the 6 years of sacrifice. I explained that I had no legal obligation and had done it out of love. Why did you stop? Carol asked. Because I realized that love without respect is just self-destruction, I said. My family treated me with contempt while I sacrificed everything. I had to choose myself. The story aired on January 28th at 6 in the evening. I watched from my apartment. The segment was titled, Family Feud or Financial Fraud. One man's silent sacrifice exposed. Carol presented everything. The bank statements showing $153,000 in payments. The text message banning me from Thanksgiving. The false crowdfunding campaign. She interviewed a legal expert who confirmed I had zero legal obligation to support my mother. The expert also stated that the crowdfunding campaign likely constituted wire fraud. The story portrayed Kyle and Amanda as manipulative liars. It portrayed my mother as ungrateful. It portrayed me as a son who had given everything and been betrayed. Within 1 hour, the story was uploaded to the news station's website. It went viral. By 9 that evening, it had been viewed 50,000 times. By midnight, 200,000. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive of me. People were outraged at Kyle and Amanda. Someone created a hashtag, Justice for Jackson. My phone started ringing. I did not answer. The calls kept coming. I checked my missed calls. 89 in 3 hours. Voicemails from Kyle, furious and panicking. Voicemails from Amanda, sobbing and begging. Voicemails from my mother, her voice shaking. Voicemails from extended family members apologizing. Voicemails from strangers offering support. Text messages flooded in faster than I could read them. My email inbox filled with hundreds of messages. Mr. Thompson called. Jackson, I saw the news. You're completely vindicated. Take the rest of the week off and come back Monday. Your job is secure. I'm sorry I doubted you. I sat on my couch watching my phone light up over and over with incoming calls and messages. The vindication felt hollow. I had won the public battle, but my family was destroyed. I thought about my father. I wondered what he would think of all this. I wondered if he would be proud that I stood up for myself, or disappointed that I let it get this far. My phone kept ringing. I turned it off and sat in silence. I woke up the next morning to 317 text messages. I scrolled through them lying in bed. Apologies from cousins. Support from old friends. Hateful messages from people who still believed Kyle and Amanda, despite the evidence. Marriage proposals from strangers, which was bizarre and disturbing. The story had been picked up by national news websites. I was trending on social media. Thousands of people were discussing my family's dysfunction. Someone had created memes using screenshots from the news segment. I felt exposed and violated even though I had agreed to tell the story. The crowdfunding platform released a statement. They had permanently banned Kyle and Amanda and refunded all donors. A criminal fraud investigation had been opened by the local district attorney's office. Kyle's employer saw the story. Kyle worked in medical equipment sales. His company called him in for a meeting. They fired him. Their reasoning was simple. He had lied publicly and committed fraud. They could not have someone dishonest representing their company. His reputation was his entire career. Without it, he had nothing. Amanda's social circle saw the story. Her friends, other suburban mothers who posted perfect family photos on social media, distanced themselves. They stopped inviting her to events. They stopped responding to her messages. Her husband Derek was humiliated. His family saw the story. They were appalled. Derek's mother called Amanda and told her she was disgusted by what Amanda had done to me. Derek told Amanda he needed space. He moved in with his parents temporarily. Their marriage was fracturing. My mother's situation reached a critical point. The property tax deadline of January 31st passed. She could not pay. The county placed a lien on the house. The mortgage was 2 months behind again. The bank accelerated the foreclosure. A sale date was set for March 15th. Barbara had 60 days to vacate the house where she had lived for 37 years. She was alone. I was gone. Kyle was fired and broke and furious. Amanda's life was falling apart. Nobody was helping her. On February 2nd, I came home from the grocery store to find Kyle in my apartment parking lot. It was 8 at night, dark and cold. He was leaning against a car that was not his. His truck had been repossessed. He was drunk. I could tell from 15 feet away. I considered getting back in my car and leaving, but he had already seen me. "Jackson," he shouted. He stumbled toward me. "You destroyed my life. You destroyed everything." I kept walking toward my apartment entrance. Kyle followed. "You made me lose my job. You made Amanda's husband leave. You made Mom lose her house. All because of your ego." I reached my door and pulled out my keys. "Kyle, go home. You're drunk. This is your fault," he shouted. He was loud enough that neighbors were looking out their windows. "If you had just kept paying, none of this would have happened." I turned to face him. "If you had not called me an idiot and banned me from Thanksgiving, none of this would have happened. If you had contributed anything to Mom's expenses in 6 years, none of this would have happened. If you had not lied and committed fraud, none of this would have happened. But you want to blame me." He lunged at me. I stepped back. He grabbed for my jacket and missed, stumbled, fell against the door. A neighbor, a young man I had never spoken to, came out of the adjacent apartment. "Is there a problem here?" Kyle turned toward him. "This is between me and my brother." "I'm calling the cops," the neighbor said, pulling out his phone. Kyle looked at him, looked at me, then turned and stumbled back toward his borrowed car. I went inside and locked the door. I heard sirens 10 minutes later. Kyle had been pulled over for erratic driving 2 blocks away. He was arrested for driving under the influence. He spent the night in jail. In the morning, he was released with a citation and a court date. His arrest became another news story. The local news ran a brief segment. Man who falsely accused brother arrested for DUI. Kyle's humiliation was complete. He had lost his job, his truck, his reputation, and now had a criminal charge. Amanda took a different approach. On February 5th, I received an email forwarded through my cousin Sarah. Amanda had written me a long message. She apologized for misunderstandings, she said. She claimed she had never truly known how much I sacrificed. She said Kyle had pressured her to go along with the social media campaign. She begged me to help our mother for Dad's memory. She promised she and Kyle would pay me back over time. The email was carefully written, manipulative, insincere. I read it twice and deleted it. I did not respond. Extended family members started calling. Most of the apologies felt hollow. We didn't know the whole story, they said, as if they could not have asked, as if they could not have questioned Kyle and Amanda's version before condemning me. My Uncle Frank called on February 7th. He was my father's younger brother, 62 years old, retired from the post office. Jackson, he said, I owe you an apology. I saw Kyle's posts, and I believed them. I should have called you directly. I should have asked your side before judging. I appreciate that, I said. Your dad would be proud of what you did for Barbara, Frank said, and he'd be ashamed of how Kyle and Amanda acted. I don't know about that. I do, Frank said. Ronald always said you were the dependable one, the one he could count on. I felt tears stinging my eyes. I miss him. Me too, kid. Me too. Frank offered to help Barbara financially, but he was on a fixed retirement income. He could manage maybe $200 a month. It was kind, but not nearly enough. I thanked him, but told him to keep his money. He had his own expenses. On February 10th, my phone rang from an unknown number. I had started answering unknown numbers again, carefully. I answered. Jackson. It was my mother. Somehow she had gotten a new phone or was calling from someone else's. Please, she said. She was crying. I'm going to lose the house. I'll be homeless. You called me an idiot and banned me from Thanksgiving, I said. My voice was flat. I was angry about Kyle, she said. About you not loaning him money. I didn't mean it. You let Kyle and Amanda lie about me publicly, I said. You never defended me. You let everyone think I'm a thief. I was scared and confused, she sobbed. I'm sorry. I paid $150,000 over 6 years, I said. I sacrificed everything for you. And you never once thanked me because you didn't even know. You never paid attention to my life. You never asked how I was doing. You just assumed everything was fine while I worked 2 jobs and lived in poverty. There was silence except for her crying. I hope you find somewhere safe to live, I said. But I can't help you anymore. Jackson, please. I hung up. I sat on my couch and put my head in my hands. Despite everything, despite all the justifications, I felt like I was failing my father. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, I received another certified letter. I signed for it with a sense of dread. It was from Kyle and Amanda's attorney, a different attorney from the first one. Despite everything, despite the news story and the public humiliation and the fraud investigation, they were actually suing me. The lawsuit claimed intentional infliction of emotional distress. It claimed I had orchestrated a media campaign to destroy their reputations and livelihoods. It demanded $200,000 in damages. I sat on my floor reading the lawsuit and felt something break inside me. They would not stop. They would never stop. They would blame me and attack me and try to destroy me until there was nothing left. I called Mrs. Patterson, the attorney I had consulted before. She reviewed the lawsuit over the phone as I read it to her. "This is insane," she said. "They're going to lose and probably face sanctions for filing a frivolous suit. But defending it will cost me money." "Yes," she said. "Probably $10,000. Even though I'll win. Even though you'll win." She paused. "Jackson, I think they know they'll lose. I think this is a war of attrition. They're trying to bankrupt you with legal fees. Can I countersue?" "Absolutely," she said, "and I recommend you do." That night I sat in my apartment with all the lights off. My phone showed 89 missed calls from blocked numbers over the past week. I knew it was my family, still calling, still demanding, still blaming. I thought about my father. I thought about the 6 years I gave. I thought about the life I could have had. And I cried for the first time since this all started. On February 16th, I met with Mrs. Patterson in person. "I'm not just going to defend," I told her. "I'm going to countersue." "Good," she said. "For what?" "Defamation, harassment, and fraud. Everything they've done." She smiled. "Let's do it." We spent 3 hours preparing the counterclaim. I was suing Kyle for $100,000. I was suing Amanda for $100,000. The counterclaim included every piece of evidence, every false social media post, every lie they had told, the fraudulent crowdfunding campaign, the harassment at my workplace and home. The documentation was overwhelming. On February 20th, we filed the counterclaim. Kyle and Amanda's attorney received it 2 days later. Their attorney called them immediately and told them they were going to lose badly. He advised them to drop their lawsuit. Kyle refused. "I'm not letting him win," Kyle said. Their attorney withdrew from the case. He would not represent them anymore. They could not afford another attorney. They would have to represent themselves. Meanwhile, the district attorney's office was building their criminal case. On March 1st, formal charges were filed. Kyle and Amanda were each charged with 1 count of wire fraud related to the crowdfunding scheme. They faced potential fines up to $10,000 each and up to 2 years probation. They had to hire a criminal defense attorney. The consultation alone cost $5,000. They put it on credit cards that were already maxed out. On March 5th, I received an unexpected call. "This is Carol Stevens," the reporter said. "I have someone who wants to meet you." "Who?" "A man named Harold Grant. He saw my story about you. He'd like to help." "I don't need help," I said. "Just meet him," Carol said. "Please." I agreed reluctantly. We met at an upscale restaurant I could never have afforded before. Harold Grant was 72, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit. He stood when I arrived and shook my hand firmly. "Jackson," he said. "Thank you for meeting me." He told me his story over lunch. His son had supported him through financial troubles years ago. Harold had never appreciated it. They had a fight over something trivial, something Harold could not even remember now. They stopped speaking. 5 years ago, his son died in a car accident. Harold never got to apologize, never got to say thank you. "I see my mistakes in your mother's actions," Harold said. "I see what I lost. I can't fix my relationship with my son, but maybe I can help you. I don't understand. I want to pay your legal fees," he said. "All of them. I can't accept that." "Why not?" "Because I don't know you. Because I don't want charity." "It's not charity," Harold said. "It's an old man trying to do for someone else's son what he wishes he could do for his own." I felt tears in my eyes. "That's very kind." "There's more," Harold said. "I own a financial consulting firm. We need a senior analyst. The position pays $75,000 a year. I'd like to offer it to you." I stared at him. "Why?" "Because you're principled," Harold said. "Because you sacrificed for years without recognition. Because you stood up for yourself when it mattered. That's the kind of person I want working for me." I accepted both offers. Harold paid Mrs. Patterson directly. He paid all my legal fees, past and future. He hired me starting March 15th. For the first time in 6 years, I felt like maybe things would be okay. On March 10th, Kyle and Amanda's attorney negotiated a settlement. They had no choice. The evidence against them was overwhelming. They agreed to drop their lawsuit against me. They agreed to pay me $50,000 each, though they had no money, and would have to pay in installments over years. They agreed to publicly retract all false statements. They agreed to plead guilty to reduced charges in the criminal case. Misdemeanor fraud, probation, community service, fines. It was over. On March 15th, the foreclosure sale happened. Barbara's house was sold at auction for $310,000. After the mortgage and fees were paid, she received $143,000. It was deposited into her bank account. She had 60 days to vacate. Uncle Frank helped her find a small apartment in a decent neighborhood. 2 bedrooms, rent of $1,000 a month. She could afford it on her Social Security plus careful budgeting. She moved out of the house on April 1st. Kyle was too broke and angry to help. Amanda was dealing with her separation from Derek. Barbara moved alone with the help of Uncle Frank and some friends from her church. On March 20th, I received a letter in the mail. The envelope was addressed in my mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away. But something made me open it. Inside were 3 handwritten pages. "Dear Jackson," it began. "I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. I know I have no right to expect you to ever speak to me again. But I need you to know that I understand now. I understand what you did for me for 6 years. I understand what you sacrificed. I understand how badly I failed you. You gave me everything, and I gave you nothing but contempt. You kept me in my home and I called you an idiot. You honored your father's memory, and I dishonored you. I was a terrible mother. I favored your brother and sister. I took you for granted. I believed their lies about you without question, because it was easier than accepting my own failures. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to help me. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. I have always loved you, even when I didn't show it. I am proud of you. Your father would be proud of you. You are a better person than I ever was. I hope someday you can find peace. I hope someday you can find happiness. You deserve both. Love, Mom." I read the letter 3 times. I cried reading it. It was the apology I had needed. It was the acknowledgement I had craved. It was real. For 3 days, I thought about what to do. On March 25th, I called my mother. She answered on the first ring. "Jackson," she whispered. We talked for 2 hours. She apologized again. She cried. I cried. She told me about the new apartment. She told me how Uncle Frank had helped her. She told me stories about my father that I had never heard. Stories about how proud he was when I graduated college. How he used to brag to his friends about his youngest son, the accountant. How he always said I was the smart one, the reliable one. We didn't solve everything. We couldn't. Too much had happened. But we started. I told her I forgave her, but things had to be different. I explained my boundaries. No more financial support beyond occasional help. No more tolerating disrespect from her or my siblings. No more enabling bad behavior. She agreed to everything. On April 1st, we met for coffee. It was awkward. She looked older, smaller, more fragile. We sat across from each other and didn't know what to say at first. Then she reached across the table and took my hands. "Thank you," she said, "for not giving up on me completely." "You're my mom," I said. "I love you. I just can't be treated that way anymore." "You won't be," she promised. "I swear you won't be." We talked about safe things at first. The weather, her new apartment, my new job. Then slowly we talked about harder things. My father. The 6 years. The hurt. It wasn't perfect. We didn't magically fix everything, but it was a start. As we left, she hugged me tight. "I love you, Jackson." "I love you too, Mom." I maintained zero contact with Kyle and Amanda. I heard through my mother that they were struggling. Kyle was working retail, barely making minimum wage. His truck had been repossessed. He was living with a roommate in a cheap apartment. Amanda and Derek were attempting reconciliation, but it was rocky. They were in marriage counseling. Derek's family still didn't trust her. They blamed her for everything as much as they blamed Kyle. My siblings still believed this was all my fault. They had learned nothing. My mother didn't push me to reconcile with them. She understood. On April 15th, I started my new job at Harold's company. I loved it. The work was challenging and interesting. My coworkers were professional and respectful. I was paid fairly. I was valued. I moved into a nicer apartment. I furnished it properly for the first time in my life. I bought real furniture, not second-hand pieces from Craigslist. I hung pictures on the walls. I made it a home. I started dating a woman I met through a friend. Her name was Emily. She was kind and funny, and she didn't know anything about my family drama until our fourth date when I finally told her. She listened to the whole story and then hugged me and said I was brave. I reconnected with old hobbies. I bought a guitar I had been wanting for years and took lessons. I went hiking on weekends. I read books for pleasure. I built a life that was mine. On June 20th, I was having dinner with Emily at a nice restaurant. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Happy early birthday. I'm proud of you. Love, Mom." My birthday wasn't for another week, but she remembered. I smiled and texted back. "Thanks, Mom. Love you too." I put my phone away and returned to my dinner. I thought about the past 6 years. I thought about everything I had given and everything I had lost. I thought about the pain and the betrayal and the fight to stand up for myself. I realized something sitting there in that restaurant with a woman who cared about me, living in a nice apartment, working at a job I loved. I realized that for 6 years, I had equated love with sacrifice. I had believed that if I gave enough, suffered enough, sacrificed enough, my family would finally see my worth. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's self-destruction. Sacrifice without recognition isn't noble. It's invisible. I had learned that family should be a source of support, not an obligation to endure abuse. I had learned that sometimes walking away isn't abandonment. It's self-preservation. I had learned that real reconciliation requires accountability, not just apologies. Most importantly, I had learned that my worth wasn't determined by how much I sacrificed for people who didn't appreciate me. My worth was inherent. I deserved respect. I deserved kindness. I deserved to have a life of my own. The text message that banned me from Thanksgiving had been the worst moment of my life, but it had also been the moment I finally chose myself. And that choice had saved me. Summer arrived, warm and bright. I celebrated my 33rd birthday with Emily, Harold and his wife, Uncle Frank, and my mother. It was a small gathering at my apartment. My mother brought a homemade cake, my father's recipe. She had not baked in years, but she made the effort. It meant something. Harold gave me a generous bonus at work for my contributions to a major project. I was thriving professionally in ways I never had before. Emily and I were growing closer. We talked about future plans, carefully and tentatively, but with real hope. On July 4th, Uncle Frank invited me to a family barbecue. Just him, his wife, my mother and me. Kyle and Amanda were not invited. We sat in Frank's backyard eating burgers and watching fireworks. My mother talked about joining a book club at her apartment complex. She was making new friends. She seemed lighter somehow, less burdened. That night, driving home, I thought about my father. I wished he could see how things had turned out. I wished I could tell him that I had honored his memory the best way I knew how. and that I had finally learned to honor myself too. I like to think he would understand. The legal situation resolved completely by August. Kyle and Amanda were on probation for 2 years. They were required to pay restitution to the crowdfunding donors, which the platform had already refunded, so they owed the platform. They were making tiny monthly payments they would be making for a decade. They owed me $50,000 each. I would probably never see most of it. But it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the principle. They had faced consequences for their actions. That was enough. My mother's life stabilized. She lived simply in her apartment. She budgeted carefully. Uncle Frank checked on her weekly. I visited her once a month for lunch. We talked about safe things mostly, but sometimes we talked about the hard things too. One afternoon in September, she asked me, "Do you think you'll ever forgive Kyle and Amanda?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "They haven't apologized. They still blame me. They haven't learned anything." She nodded sadly. "I understand. But I hope someday," she said. "For your sake, not theirs. Holding anger hurts you more than them." "I'm not holding anger," I said. "I'm holding boundaries. There's a difference." She smiled. "Your father used to say you were the wise one." "I miss him." "Me too," I said. "Every day." Emily and I got more serious as fall arrived. We talked about moving in together. I was cautious, still learning how to trust and be vulnerable. But she was patient. She understood. Harold became a mentor and friend. He told me often that helping me had helped him heal from losing his son. We had both found something we needed in each other. By October, a year had passed since the Thanksgiving text message. I thought about it sometimes, about how one cruel moment had changed everything. But I didn't regret my choice. I had spent 6 years invisible and unappreciated. I had spent 6 years believing my worth came from sacrifice. That text message had hurt me deeply, but it had also freed me. It had forced me to see the truth about my family and about myself. Some people asked if I would do it all again. Would I still pay those bills for 6 years, knowing how it would end? I didn't know how to answer that. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say I would have set boundaries from the beginning, but the truth was more complicated. I had paid those bills because I loved my mother and wanted to honor my father. Those motivations were pure. The problem wasn't that I helped. The problem was that I helped at the expense of myself. The problem was that I accepted disrespect and contempt in exchange for my generosity. The problem was that I taught my family they could take me for granted because I would always be there no matter how they treated me. I should have helped my mother while also maintaining my self-respect. I should have been honest about what I was doing and expected appreciation. I should have set boundaries with Kyle and Amanda from the beginning. Those were the lessons I carried forward. On Thanksgiving, a year after the text message, I had dinner with Emily at her parents' house. They were warm and welcoming. Her father thanked me for making his daughter happy. Her mother hugged me and said I was always welcome. I belonged there. I was valued there. My mother spent Thanksgiving with Uncle Frank and his family. She called me that evening. "Happy Thanksgiving, Jackson. Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. I'm grateful for you," she said. "I'm grateful you gave me another chance." "I'm grateful you're trying," I said. That's all I ever wanted. Kyle and Amanda spent Thanksgiving separately, in their own struggling worlds. I didn't think about them much anymore. They had made their choices. I had made mine. As I sat with Emily's family, eating pie and laughing at her father's jokes, I realized I had found what I had been searching for all along. Not just family, but belonging. Not just love, but respect. Not just sacrifice, but reciprocity. The journey had been painful. The cost had been high. But I had survived. More than survived, I had grown. I had learned my worth. I had learned to choose myself. And I had learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to accept anything less than you deserve. That was the lesson I would carry for the rest of my life. You can love your family, and still protect yourself. You can be generous without being a doormat. You can set boundaries without being selfish. You can walk away from toxicity without guilt. You can forgive without forgetting. And you can build a new life, a better life, a life where you are valued and respected and appreciated. That was what I had done. That was what I would continue to do. As the evening ended, and Emily and I drove home through the quiet streets, I felt peace, real peace. The kind that comes not from having a perfect life, but from having an authentic one. The kind that comes from living according to your values, even when it's hard. The kind that comes from choosing yourself, finally, after years of choosing everyone else. My phone didn't ring with angry calls anymore. There were no more death threats or hate messages. There were no more legal threats or public accusations. There was just my life. Simple, honest, mine. And it was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever sacrificed everything for someone who took you for granted? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-respect? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories like this one, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we all need reminding that it's okay to choose ourselves. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, some clarity, or at least some company in whatever you're going through. Remember, your worth isn't determined by how much you sacrifice. Your worth is inherent. You deserve respect. You deserve kindness. You deserve to have boundaries. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you in the next story.